Okay guys, so let's come back to our mat and we're gonna start in a seated position. So we're gonna start with our legs out nice and long, reaching long all the way from hip to toes, pulling in through inner thighs, trying to sit up as tall and as long as you can. We're gonna bring our arms out in front and we're gonna first work our little pelvic tilt. We're gonna drop those shoulders down, lengthen through the head and the neck like there's a cord pulling you straight up for the ceiling. And we're gonna tilt back. Tuck and curl into that nice hollow position. Your legs kind of come back with you as you rock back onto your pockets. And then we fold forward slightly and we'll sit up and we'll sit tall. And really feel like your whole torso is stretching up towards the ceiling versus arching through the back. We're gonna tuck and tilt, draw those shoulders down, draw navel to spine. We're evenly weighted across the hips, and then we'll fold and come forward. Sitting up nice and tall, drawing the ribs in, the abs in. You can do this one with a bent knee if the straight leg is especially uncomfortable for the hamstrings or for the hip flexors. So working from that slight bent knee, you'll be able to work that pelvic tilt a little bit more, focusing on the movement through the hip as best you can to tilt the hips back, draw navel to spine, sink those shoulders down, and then coming up nice and tall. We're gonna do one more here in this pelvic tilt, sinking down, rocking back. Pause for a breath as you pull in tighter and forward to rise. We're gonna work our half roll up. So we're gonna curl and roll back as far as you can, only as far as the tip of the shoulder blades, if you're gonna really work back as far as you can. Keeping that forward fold at the mid-ribs and curl and roll forward. Again, this can also be done with your bent knee. If you're trying to take out the articulations, you can work your hip hinge, either with a straight leg or a bent knee if the articulations don't work for you. And we're gonna curl back. Once you start to feel the feet wanting to lift up off of your mat because those hip flexors are starting to take over, that's your pause position. So I'm down just at the tip of my shoulder blades and then beginning to fold and curl. And as I reach with my arms, I don't pull the shoulder forward or collapse through the chest. And sitting tall. Curling and rolling back. Just to the tip of the shoulder blades. Pause here for a breath. If you need to, you can bring your hands behind your head for more head and neck support. Curling and rolling forward, and then reaching out long over the legs to stretch. I'm gonna put my socks back on. Reaching and stretching long. Restacking the spine, sitting tall. We're gonna tuck back just a little bit, just to the back of those pockets. Drop those shoulders down, and then exhale, right leg lifts. It inhales to lower. Last two with that right leg nice and long. Hold here or roll forward to reset, and we switch to that left side. Two more leg lifts. Pause for a breath. Draw in a little deeper, and then forward and roll forward. Arms reach out over the legs, drawing those shoulders back and down. Curling and restacking, sitting up tall. We're gonna bend the right knee, place the right foot against the inner thigh, and you can move your left leg out to the side corner of your mat. And we're gonna sit up nice and tall, reach long overhead, and we're gonna tuck and curl. Roll forward, roll down over that left leg. Try to grab the knee, the shin, or the foot. Draw the toes back for the shin. Shoulders slide down. You're stretching through that left calf. Anchor into that left hip so you don't roll off into the side. We want to keep that weight on the left side as we expand and open through the collarbone. Reaching farther. Feeling that pressure glide out through the heel as we stretch the calf and the hamstring and the hip a little bit more. Placing your hands down on the mat, drop the shoulders down, bringing the hands back, and we're going to lift into an extension. Nice flat back, long through the head. The shoulders pull back. We draw the toes back more, deepening that stretch. Flat through the back, and then hinge up, nice and tall. We'll switch sides. We'll bring that right foot out to that side corner of the mat, pulling the left foot in to that right inner thigh, reaching up long overhead, and exhale to curl, working that hollowing as you roll forward, reaching out over that right leg, drawing the toes back for the shin, shoulders down, breathing into that stretch. You're keeping the weight on that right hip, drawing the toes, dorsiflexing at the ankle. Try not to just make it about the top of the foot. You want to pull back at the ankle as best you can. Hands come down to the mat, and we're going to peel and lift up into extension. Keep drawing the top of the foot back towards the knee and the shin. Holding for that breath. And then sitting up, sitting tall. We'll bring both legs out in front. We're going to turn onto our left side, laying flat on that left side. Head is going to rest on the bicep, and we're going to bend that bottom left leg into a sideline tabletop position. So I'm 90 at the hip and 90 at the knee. And I'm going to bring that top right leg straight out, draw up through those lower abs, and I'm pushing that tension out my leg and out my heel. I have my right hand on my hip so I can track the back as I exhale to lift and inhale to lower. Reaching long through the leg. Getting that nice glide of the leg to lift up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to come forward, reaching up nice and long. We're going to do these forward circles at the bottom, reach up and back at the top, and come through. Opening up the hip, allowing the leg to glide smoothly. Reset the core, ribs and abdominals knit in, and we reach back and circle up and forward. Keeping that knee straight, good tension throughout the leg. Left leg is anchored into the floor. And we have one more. We're going to stack the legs on top and bring the heels back more in line with the tailbone. And you can even come up onto your hand if you don't want to stay flat on your side. And we're going to reach that top right knee up for the ceiling, keeping the feet together, heels together and anchored. As you lift that right leg, we're not allowing the hip to roll back. One more. Placing this left hand down either on your forearm or on your hand and wrist. We're going to come up nice and tall and up to our left side bridge and that side plank. Coming here to that side plank, or often called side bridge. Hips come forward, head and neck comes back in line with the shoulder, so it's ear, shoulder, hip to knee. Nice and long, nice and tall. See if you can float that top right leg out, holding that side position, that side plank nice and long, and then we'll do small little lifts with that right leg, little taps and lift for 3, 2, 1, bend that knee, restack, keep that control, lower the hip, right back down. Coming up, we're going to spin and switch to the other side. So we're laying down on that right side. Bottom right leg is in side lying tabletop, 90 at the hip, 90 at the knee. We're going to float that left leg parallel to the mat, dorsiflexed at the ankle, and we're going to exhale to lift and slow to lower. Reaching that leg nice and long, out of the hip. Left shoulder stays packed back and down. One more. And then we're going to go to these forward circles. We're going to kick forward, reaching up, circling back. And you can do this with a dorsiflexed foot if the calves tend to cramp, or point the toe if you want to activate the back of the leg more to engage the core. We're going to come forward in reverse direction. Reaching back without overarching the back. Last one. Bending the knees, stacking the legs. We're going to bring the heels back. And you can either stay laying flat on your arm or up and lifted. And we're going to work the clamshell. Heels stay connected. We exhale to lift that left leg high. The left knee rotates up towards the ceiling without the left hip rolling back. One more. Coming down to the forearm or the hand and wrist, depending on where you feel most confident and secure in your position. And we're going to lift up into the side plank for that right side. Hips are through, right shoulder's packed back and down. Head and neck is back, so your ear, shoulder, hip to knee. Ribs are knitted in, core's nice and tight. We extend that left leg out and we lift. Small little lifts. Three, 2, 1. Bringing that knee back, resetting the torso, and slow and controlled as you come back down. We're going to come up to a seated position with legs nice and straight to the outside edges of the mat. Feet are flexed, toes are pulled back. You're sitting long and tall up out of your sit bones. And we're going to reach our arms forward and either hinge with a flat back as you hinge forward out over the legs, or work that forward roll down as if you're rolling your spine, rolling off of that wall behind you. Draw those shoulders down. Feel free to reach down for your legs or feet to stretch a little bit more. And curling back up. Restacking all the way back up, nice and tall, nice and long. Curl and roll forward again. Reach the sacrum back, reach the tailbone back as you stretch the legs long across your mat. Glide those shoulders down. Taking that right hand, lace it through the left arm and try to look under that left underarm. Keeping your right hip anchored on the mat, draw the toes back. And we'll reset. Right hand to the right foot. Left hand comes under the right and we look under the right arm. Sit into that left side a little bit more. Draw the foot back. Coming through to center, glide those shoulders down, hands off the feet and legs, and we're going to tuck and curl, resetting all the way back up. We bring our arms out to the side, palms turn up for the ceiling for that externally rotated shoulder, and we rotate to the right for a double pulse. We come through to center and double pulse to the other side. Keeping the movement out of the legs, out of the hips. Arms are pulling apart, so neither arm flows in front as you rotate around, like you've got a dowel running from hand through to the other hand. Last one left. And coming forward, reaching up, we're going to roll forward towards that right leg to stretch. Fix the left hip to your mat, to the floor. Keep drawing those toes back even though you don't have a hand on that left foot. You drive through for that calf stretch. Reaching long over that right leg. Anchor into that left hip so you take a little bit of the pressure off the right side. So you've got good balance through the hips. And we stack. Reach tall, rotate, and let's dive forward over that left leg. Just trying to open and stretch a little bit more before we go into our saw exercise. So we've got that length, that strength through the legs, through the back. Anchoring that right hip down, stretching through the calves and the legs, and restack. Arms are going to come out to front to start. We stretch the spine long. Now bring the arms out to a T, palms face forward. We're going to rotate to the right. Right arm internally rotates, so my palm is facing up towards the ceiling. Left hand reaches long for that pinky toe on the right leg. And we're stretching. Coming up on that diagonal, finding that extension. And unwinding. Rotate to the left. Left arm internally rotates at the shoulder, so palm is up. Right hand is reaching across that left pinky toe. Draw those toes back. We're up into extension. Reaching long. Sitting tall. And unwinding. Changing sides. Take your time. So both arms are reaching long away. You're sitting that left hip down against your mat as you lean forward over that right leg. And then we're up into extension. Flat back. proud chest. Reach forward, reach long, sit tall, and unwind. And up into extension. Coming tall, and we're gonna go for one more each time, each side. Take your time here. If you've got some areas of the movement where you want to pause and take an extra breath to dial in that position a little bit more. Lifting up into extension. Fight for that length. Feel the back extensors fire. Coming up, wrapping around. And last one to this left side. Really find that reach, that tension of the arms, reaching away from your torso, from your shoulders. And then up into extension. And sitting up and sitting tall. We'll bring our legs together. Point those toes. Arms are out in front. We're going to tuck and curl. Rolling all the way down. Reach those arms back overhead. Stretching long, knitting the rib cage in. And then we'll bend the knees and we'll place the feet flat on the mat. And we're going to work into our shoulder bridges or our pelvic curls. If you want to articulate, go for the pelvic curl, that rolling of the spine, or the strict shoulder bridge keeps the spine in neutral. For the pelvic curl, we're going to tilt those hips back. Sink the low back against the mat. Now engage the glutes. Reach the hips up as the knees glide forward towards the toes. Ribs knit in. We're anchored onto our shoulder blades. And then slowly curling and rolling back down. All the way through to the sacrum, to the tailbone. Reset the shoulders. They tend to want to shrug up towards the neck and the ears. Rolling all the way through and tilt. One more. Resetting long, articulating inch by inch up the back. As you peel and curl, coming up to that lifted position, activating that inner thigh, and curling back down. We're going to interlace our hands back behind the head to work into our chest lift. So we're in a neutral position through the hip. We want to make sure that as we work our chest lift that we don't rock the hips back, that we stay down on the tailbone, down on our pockets. We're going to fold up the mid-ribs on our next exhale to lift the chest. The head glides up as we support the head with our hands and our arms. We take a breath at the top and exhale to curl back down. Inhale to pause at the bottom for your reset, and exhale to fold and lift. Folding across the brow line, across those mid-ribs, we want to hug the underarms down more. Feel that connection along the tricep, through the rib cage, wrapping around to the core, to the abdominal wall. folding and lifting, coming up into that chest lift. We're gonna exhale to rotate right without the legs swaying, and inhale through to center. Exhale to rotate left and across to center. Try not to let the shoulders creep up towards the neck and the ears. Keep the collarbone spreading wide. Shoulders down. And head supported by your hands and arms. Working that rotation without the hips or the legs moving. So for some of you, it may be a small little rotation. If you have tightness through the mid-back, you may not be able to move as far. It may be a smaller movement. Also check as you rotate from right to left that the distance between the rib cage and the hip stays the same both left and right. So you're not adding any lateral flexion into your movement. One more right. Last one left. And we'll come back to center and curl and roll down. Now that we have our thoracic nice and mobile, we'll bring our knees up to tabletop, hug through the inner thighs for our spine twist supine, which is back to that thoracic rotation through the mid-ribs. We're going to inhale to rotate right and exhale back to center. Inhale to rotate left and exhale back. Drawing the ribs down and in, anchoring those shoulders against your mat. They are your foundation that fix you to the floor. Coming over to that right side, straighten those legs, straight legs, pull back across to center. Bend to tabletop, over to that left side, straighten, and back to center. One more right. And last one left. Keeping that adductor engagement at the inner thigh. Here at center, we're going to inhale, right leg lowers, and exhale to lift. We'll stay on this right side for a set of 5. Inhale down for 3, and exhale up. Last one. Reaching long, reconnect and reset. Try not to rush to that left side. Last 2. Bending the knees, hugging the knees into the chest, and stretching the back long across the mat. We're going to move into a little figure 4 stretch. So we're going to place the lower right leg across the top of that left thigh. Bring the left leg to tabletop, reach through, grab the back of the thigh, and then move that right knee away from the shoulder and away from the chest. And you can either move the leg yourself by making it more of that active stretch, or grab onto that knee with your hand or with your elbow and forearm to glide that knee away. The leg is moving away from the chest, but we keep the hip in relation to the rib cage the same on both sides. So we're not taking that stretch into our low back. Placing that left foot down, we'll switch to the other side. Lower left leg just below, just above the right knee. We'll reach through and try to press that left knee, left thigh away from the shoulder, away from that ear. Unwinding. We're going to bring our knees to tabletop. We're going to work into hamstring pull 1. So we're going to extend the legs nice and long. We'll fold and lift at the mid-ribs to lift the head, neck, and chest. I start with my hands behind my thigh to kind of set my sacrum and my pockets and fold deeper into the mid-ribs. I'm going to reach up and try to grab the back of my right calf. Find that extension. Left leg is going to lower, hover above the mat, and then we do 2 bicep curls of that right leg towards you, and we switch. Nice and smooth. If you're finding that you're really bending the knee when you grab that calf, you could slide down to the back of the thigh, just below the knee, and try to really straighten that leg. You could also do this one flat on your back and working the pulses without the arms. Last one right, and last one left. We're going to bring that left knee to tabletop, glide those shoulders down, and we're going to switch for a single leg stretch. Reaching long with the legs, gliding those shoulders down, folding deeper at the mid-ribs. Draw navel to spine. You can support the head and the neck with your hands or with your Pilates ring or a small hand towel. Right, left, knees pull in. We go to butterfly stretch, drop the shoulders back, soles of the feet together, and knees fall out to the side. We bring our arms out to a T position and stretch and sink into the floor. You could add some rotations of the head to open up along the neck and the top of the shoulder a little bit more. We'll come back to center. Knees are going to be bent, feet are flat. We're going to bring that right leg up to tabletop, and we'll inhale to lower and exhale to lift. Keeping the arms out at our T, reaching the arms long. We're hinging at the hip. So that's an extension of the leg from the hip with the ribs and the abdominals drawing in as we flatten the back. One more on this right side. We'll place that right foot down, bringing that left leg up to tabletop. Reconnect, ribs and core. Inhale to lower. You can also scale back the movement in the leg, making smaller movements so you don't pull the hip and the back with you as the leg lowers. So even if you're working these small little movements here, it's perfectly fine. Bringing that left leg up to tabletop, the right comes up to meet it, and we're going to alternate from side to side. You could do one leg at a time, versus having both legs moving the opposite direction at the same time. Keeping that angle of the knee consistent throughout the movement, so the movement's happening in the hip alone. Hands interlaced behind the head. Fold and lift the head, neck, and chest. Continue with that hip extension. Last one left. We come to center here. We're going to bring our hands back to our knees. We're going to pull that right knee in. Left leg stretches long. We switch to the other side. We're going to do 2 to each side. Now hold here on that left leg. Roll onto your left side, hovering the shoulder and the legs up off the ground. Right leg lifts. Keeping that stability, trying to keep that left leg nice and still. Long through that right leg. We reach long one more time. Hover, roll back to your side. And we're going to switch back into those single leg stretches. Pause, holding that right leg. Roll onto that right side. Hover both legs. And lift. One more. And roll back. Come back to center, and we're going to switch once again. But this time I'm going to stop again, holding my right knee, but I'm still going to roll onto the left side, and my bottom left leg is going to lift. 2, 1, hover, and roll. Back to center, and back to those single leg lifts, those single leg extensions. And we're going to stop holding that left leg in tabletop. Roll onto your right hip, hover and pause, and right leg lifts. Last 2. And roll. Bring both knees to tabletop. We'll do a few double leg stretch. We inhale to open. Exhale to sweep around back to our tabletop. As the arms glide overhead, the shoulders, the chest stay up, stay lifted. Last 3. Drawing through the inner thigh, reach those legs longer. Finishing off that last one. And knees to chest, shoulders to mat. Reaching the legs out nice and long. Arms come up overhead. We're going to tuck and curl. Inhale to lift the arms, the head and the chest, and exhale to curl and roll. Reach forward long over the thighs. Dive forward to stretch the back. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. And restack. Sitting up nice and tall. We'll bring our legs out behind us. We're going to lay flat on our stomachs for some back extension work. If you don't want to do back extension, I would switch up to a center plank. So legs are going to be nice and long out behind you, pulling through the inner thighs. We'll start with our basic back extension. Inner thighs and feet are connected. Arms are reaching long to draw those shoulders away from the head and the ears. We inhale to lift. And exhale to lower, float the nose. That inhale lift is a fold at the mid-ribs, right across the brow line, and exhale to lower. Reconnect those shoulders down the back, and lift. Keeping the core tight, tucking the tailbone slightly. Keep it out of your low back. Bring hands to the forehead. Forehead's resting on the back of the hands. We can lower down to the mat slightly, reset the hips and the core. And we're gonna inhale to lift. Arms come out, back to the forehead, and we lower down. Inhale to lift. Arms reach out long, coming back to hold that chest lift, that thoracic extension. Last two. Arms are reaching farther and longer, drawing those shoulders down. And then slow to lower. Curling the toes under, we bring our hands by the chest. We're going to push up, sit back towards the heels to stretch. Coming out, we're going to curl the toes under. We're going to walk out to our center plank. On our hands or your forearms. I have my feet about hip width, sit bones distance apart. Glide those arms and those shoulders back and down. Strong through the hands. We're going to lift that right leg up for 1, 2, 3. And switch to the left side. And back to that right side. Over to the left. 3 extensions of the leg and the hip. Last set left. And dropping the knees back, sitting back to the heels. And stretching long out overhead. Restacking the spine, sitting up nice and long, nice and tall. Reach and stretch up for the ceiling. Interlace those hands. Stretch up. And back to neutral. All right, guys, great work today. Nice job. Awesome work.